If this video found you, it is not random. It is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Because something shifted, something invisible moved, and whatever you did in silence, whatever battle you fought when no one was watching, it worked. You won, and what you thought was still coming is already yours. There was a moment recently, a quiet moment, when you almost gave up, when you questioned everything, when you wondered if all the discipline, all the restraint, all the late-night prayers, all the tears were pointless. But you didn't quit. You held your ground. And in the unseen realm of destiny, that decision changed everything. You feel it, don't you? That strange calm, that unfamiliar confidence. Not arrogance, not ego, but certainty. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that knows something has already been written in your favor. Chosen ones don't win loudly. They win spiritually first. And when the spiritual shifts, the physical has no choice but to follow. You were never crazy. You were never too sensitive. You were never too much. You were aware, awake, sensitive to things others are numb to. While they chased noise, you were searching for meaning. While they followed trends, you were wrestling with truth. Being chosen was never about superiority. It was about responsibility. It was about being entrusted with insight that others aren't ready for, and that insight often feels like isolation. You felt alone in rooms full of people. You've outgrown conversations that once entertained you. You've watched friendships dissolve because your frequency changed. That wasn't loss. That was elevation. Society doesn't celebrate awakenings. It questions them. It mocks them. It labels them. Because a person who thinks deeply cannot be controlled easily. A person who questions systems cannot be manipulated quietly. And a person who knows their worth cannot be intimidated. That's why your path felt heavy. That's why your tests felt unfair. You weren't being punished. You were being refined. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every delay strengthened your patience. Every setback trained your discipline. And here's the truth most people will never understand. The breakthrough happens long before the applause. The victory happens internally before it manifests externally. Whatever you did, it worked. That day you chose silence instead of reaction. That day you walked away instead of begging. That day you forgave instead of seeking revenge. That day you trusted the process instead of forcing control. That was the turning point. Chosen ones win through alignment, not aggression, through surrender to purpose, not obsession with outcomes. You stopped fighting for what wasn't meant for you, and the moment you released it, what is meant for you locked into place. You may not see the full evidence yet, but you feel the shift. Doors that once resisted you are loosening. Opportunities feel closer. Your anxiety about the future is fading. Because deep down, you know something is already secured. Spiritual awakening is not fireworks. It is clarity. It is the quiet realization that you were never behind. You were being prepared. Every delay was design. Every rejection was protection. You've started noticing signs, repeating messages, conversations that feel orchestrated, insights arriving at the exact moment you needed them. That's not luck. That's alignment. And here's what makes chosen ones different. They almost quit right before the breakthrough. They are tested at the edge of their endurance, because victory without transformation is dangerous. You had to become strong enough to hold what was already written for you. You asked for growth, you asked for elevation, you asked for purpose, and growth doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort, it arrives disguised as pressure. But you endured. That's why it's already yours. Not because you demanded it, not because you forced it, but because you became the version of yourself capable of sustaining it. Your habits changed. Your mindset matured. Your standards rose. You stopped chasing validation. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. And when that happened, the universe responded. People may not see it yet. They may still underestimate you. They may still remember the old version of you. Let them. Transformation is often invisible before it is undeniable. Chosen ones don't announce their arrival. They evolve quietly. And then one day, everyone notices the difference. You're not waiting anymore. You're transitioning. The battle you thought you were still fighting, it's already settled. The door you thought was locked, it's already unlocked. The future you feared losing, it's already protected. You just had to hold on long enough to align with it. Now here's what matters most. Do not shrink back. Do not doubt the shift. Do not sabotage what you prayed for because it feels unfamiliar. Expansion feels uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is proof you're stretching beyond your old limits. You won because you didn't quit. You won because you chose integrity over impulse. You won because when it was easier to become bitter, you chose to become better. And that decision changed your trajectory. So step into it. Walk like it's already yours. Think like it's already secured. Move like it's already written. Because it is. If this message resonated with you, don't scroll away silently. Claim your awakening in the comments. Let this be the moment you publicly acknowledge your transformation. Like this video if you feel the shift. Subscribe to Return to Awakening if you're ready to continue uncovering the truths most people are too distracted to see. This isn't motivation. This is confirmation. And understand this. When something is already written for you, the final phase is always the quietest. There is no dramatic announcement, no thunder in the sky, just a deep internal knowing that cannot be shaken. You may wake up some mornings and feel an unfamiliar stillness, not emptiness, not confusion, stillness. That is what happens when the war inside you ends, when the arguing with yourself stops, when the doubt that once screamed becomes a whisper you no longer obey. Chosen ones don't just fight external battles. Their greatest wars happen in private, in their thoughts, in their discipline, in their restraint. You mastered reactions. You mastered silence. You mastered patience. And those invisible victories are louder than any public achievement. There were nights you felt misunderstood, days you felt behind, moments you compared yourself and almost lost confidence. But comparison was a distraction. Your timeline was never meant to mirror anyone else's. Your path required isolation because isolation sharpens awareness. While others were distracted, you were being developed. And here's the part most people miss. When you feel like everything is quiet, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is aligning. Real power moves silently. Real growth happens underground before it breaks through the surface. A seed does not argue with the soil. It does not complain about the darkness. It understands that pressure is part of expansion. You were buried, not defeated. That betrayal you thought broke you, it built discernment. That opportunity you lost, it redirected you. That season of loneliness, it strengthened your connection to your Creator. You were being separated from noise so you could hear guidance clearly. And now you're not confused anymore. You're observant, you're strategic, you're calm. That calm is victory. Notice how your reactions have changed. Things that once triggered you no longer move you. Situations that once drained you now feel irrelevant. You've stepped into emotional discipline, and emotional discipline is power. People may still test you, they may still doubt you, they may still try to provoke you, but they're interacting with an outdated version of you. The old you reacted, the new you responds with intention. The old you chased answers, the new you trusts timing. You didn't just win something externally. You won control over yourself. And when a person gains control over themselves, nothing outside of them can destabilize them. That's why it's already yours. Because the version of you that would have mishandled it no longer exists. You prayed for elevation, but elevation requires detachment. You had to detach from validation, from toxic patterns, from environments that celebrated your weakness but felt threatened by your strength. You felt the separation happening. Friends drifting, conversations shortening, invitations decreasing. That wasn't rejection. That was refinement. Not everyone can ascend with you. Some people are assigned to chapters, not the entire story. And you've matured enough to accept that without resentment. That maturity unlocks something. When you stopped forcing people to understand you, clarity increased. When you stopped explaining your vision, confidence increased. When you stopped seeking approval, your presence became stronger. You don't talk as much now, you observe more. You don't react quickly now, you calculate. You don't fear loss the way you used to, because you understand that what is truly written for you cannot be stolen. That understanding is freedom. There was a time when you thought winning meant proving people wrong. Now you understand winning means outgrowing the need to prove anything at all. Silence became your shield. Patience became your weapon. Faith became your foundation. And something else happened quietly. You stopped asking when and started asking, how can I prepare? That shift in mindset changed your entire trajectory. Because preparation signals belief. You wouldn't prepare if you didn't believe something greater was ahead. And belief activates movement. Movement activates opportunity. Opportunity reveals what was already positioned for you. Look back at the past few months. Subtle changes, unexpected connections, ideas that suddenly feel clear, strength you didn't know you had. These are not random events. They are confirmations that the internal work you did is producing external evidence. You didn't just hope for change, you became it. And here's the truth most people won't admit. When chosen ones level up, they often feel temporary discomfort. Not because something is wrong, but because their identity is expanding faster than their comfort zone. Growth feels unfamiliar, but unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It means upgraded. You're stepping into rooms mentally before you step into them physically. You're thinking at a higher level. You're evaluating decisions differently. You're no longer impulsive. You're intentional. That's leadership energy. That's chosen energy. And when someone carries that frequency, doors don't just open randomly. They open strategically, at the right time, in the right way, with the right impact. You are no longer chasing opportunities. You are becoming undeniable. And that is why you can feel it in your spirit. Whatever you did, it worked. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are aligned. And alignment is the true victory. Alignment changes how you see everything. What once felt like chaos now feels like choreography. What once looked like delay now looks like design. You're beginning to recognize patterns, not just in others, in yourself. The cycles you used to repeat no longer control you. The habits that once sabotaged you have lost their grip. That is not luck, that is transformation. Chosen ones evolve in layers. First, their awareness expands. Then their standards rise. Then their tolerance for mediocrity disappears. And when that happens, their entire environment must adjust. That adjustment can feel lonely. Because when you grow, you unintentionally expose stagnation in others. Your discipline highlights their excuses. Your focus highlights their distractions. Your silence highlights their noise. And not everyone is comfortable with that. Some will call you distant. Some will call you different. Some will say you've changed. They're right. You changed because you had to. There comes a moment in every awakened person's life when comfort becomes more dangerous than risk, when staying the same feels heavier than stepping forward. You reached that moment quietly. You didn't announce it. You simply decided. And decisions shape destiny. You decided to protect your energy. You decided to guard your mind. You decided to stop entertaining what drains you. That decision shifted your trajectory more than you realize. You may not have noticed it immediately, But the moment you stopped negotiating with your lower self, your higher self took control. And that version of you does not panic. It does not chase. It does not beg. It builds. Chosen ones are builders, builders of character, builders of wisdom, builders of legacy. But before they build anything externally, they build themselves internally. That's what you've been doing in silence. Reconstructing your mindset, rebuilding your confidence, rewiring your habits. And rebuilding is exhausting because you must first tear down what no longer serves you, old beliefs, old fears, old attachments. You felt pieces of yourself fall away, and for a moment you thought you were losing who you were. You weren't losing yourself. You were shedding limitations. That shedding process feels uncomfortable because identity feels safe, even if it's small, even if it's restricted. But expansion demands courage. It demands stepping into a version of yourself you haven't fully met yet. And you've been meeting that version slowly. Notice how your conversations have changed. You crave depth now, substance, meaning. Surface-level talk drains you. Drama exhausts you. You don't find entertainment in chaos anymore. That's growth. Notice how your goals have changed. It's no longer about proving, it's about purpose. It's no longer about attention, it's about impact. That shift is rare. And rare people often feel isolated before they feel recognized. But recognition is not the goal. Fulfillment is. And fulfillment comes from alignment with your calling, not applause from a crowd. You've also become more aware of timing. You don't rush decisions the way you used to. You sit with them. You pray over them. You analyze them. Because you understand that one wrong move can delay momentum. That awareness is maturity. And maturity attracts elevation. People sense something different about you now. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. Your energy is grounded. Your presence is steady. Your eyes carry experience. You don't speak from theory anymore. You speak from survival. You survived confusion. You survived betrayal. You survived doubt. And survival builds authority. Authority without arrogance, confidence without noise, strength without aggression. That balance is powerful. Chosen ones are not loud. They are firm. They are not impulsive. They are strategic. They are not reckless. They are deliberate. And you are becoming deliberate. You no longer chase instant gratification. You're playing the long game now. You understand that real success, real impact, requires patience and consistency. You're no longer looking for quick validation. You're building something sustainable. That mindset guarantees growth. And here's something deeper: when you stopped fearing loss, abundance started flowing. Not just financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You realize that loss is sometimes clearance, clearing space for something greater. You don't cling anymore. You trust. Trust is strength. The anxiety that once controlled your thoughts has softened, not because life is perfect, but because your faith is stronger than your fear. And when faith outweighs fear, peace follows. Peace is a sign of victory. You're not fighting everyone anymore. You're not trying to correct everyone. You're not trying to convince everyone. You've accepted that not everyone is meant to understand you. And that acceptance frees you. The truth is, you outgrew the old battlefield. The battles you used to fight are beneath your new level of awareness. And when you refuse to engage in low-level conflict, you conserve high-level energy. Energy that will be used for your next chapter. Because this is not the end of your journey. This is the confirmation phase. The phase where everything begins aligning quietly before it manifests loudly. The phase where internal certainty replaces external validation. The phase where you move differently because you know something is already secured. You can feel it. The preparation is almost complete. The pressure is easing. The clarity is increasing. And you are no longer the same person who started this journey. You can sense the difference in the way you carry yourself now. Your walk is slower. Your words are measured. Your presence is heavier. Not heavy with stress, heavy with awareness. You used to second-guess your intuition. Now you move with it. You used to ignore red flags. Now you recognize them instantly. You used to explain your boundaries. Now you enforce them quietly. That is evolution. Chosen ones don't just awaken spiritually. They sharpen mentally. They begin to see patterns in people, patterns in systems, patterns in their own behavior. And once you see patterns, you cannot unsee them. That's why you can't go back. You can't return to old conversations that lack depth. You can't return to environments that shrink you. You can't return to habits that weaken you, because awareness eliminates ignorance. And ignorance once kept you comfortable. But comfort was never your assignment. There were moments when you felt like you were losing everything. Relationships shifted. Opportunities closed. Plans collapsed. But what you didn't realize at the time was that anything unstable had to be removed before stability could be built. You weren't being stripped. You were being stabilized. The foundation had to be solid. Your discipline had to be tested. Your patience had to be proven. Your loyalty to your principles had to be refined. Because what's coming next requires strength. Not temporary strength, sustained strength. You are no longer impressed by quick success. You're focused on lasting impact. You understand now that anything gained without preparation can be lost just as quickly. So you prepared. Even when it was boring. Even when it was lonely. Even when no one clapped for you. That's the difference between being interested and being called. You were called. And being called means being challenged beyond what feels fair. It means being misunderstood when you try to explain your vision. It means watching others move ahead while you feel delayed, only to later realize you were being positioned, not postponed. Positioning is quiet. It doesn't look dramatic. It looks ordinary. But behind ordinary days, extraordinary growth was taking place inside you. You were building resilience. You were strengthening self-control. You were mastering emotional regulation. And that mastery is rare. Most people react. Few people reflect. Most people chase. Few people prepare. Most people talk. Few people build. You chose to build. You built yourself when no one believed in you. You built your mindset when negativity surrounded you. You built your discipline when distraction was everywhere. That's why you feel different now. There's a confidence in you that doesn't need to be loud. You don't feel the need to announce your goals anymore. You protect them. You nurture them. You move in silence. Because you understand something powerful. When something is already written for you, you don't have to force it. You align with it. And alignment changes your energy completely. You're no longer desperate for outcomes. You're detached from the timeline. You do your part and trust that the result will meet you at the right moment. That detachment is strength. It's no longer, what if it doesn't happen? When it unfolds, I'll be ready. And you will be ready because you've already been tested in private. The doubt tested you. The delay tested you. The disappointment tested you. But instead of breaking, you adapted. Adaptation is power. You learn to pivot without panic. You learn to lose without losing yourself. You learn to wait without losing hope. And waiting purified your intentions. You no longer want success just to be seen. You want it to serve a purpose. You no longer want influence for attention. You want impact for meaning. That shift is spiritual maturity. You also stopped competing. That may be the biggest sign of your growth. You stopped comparing timelines. You stopped measuring yourself against others. You stopped feeling threatened by someone else's progress. Because you realized something profound. What is written for you cannot be intercepted. No one can steal your assignment. No one can block your destiny. No one can delay what has already been authorized for your life. That realization removes fear. And when fear is removed, clarity increases. Now you see opportunities differently. You evaluate people differently. You choose your battles wisely. You no longer argue to win. You disengage to preserve energy. Energy is currency, and you've stopped wasting it. The version of you that needed approval is gone. The version of you that tolerated disrespect is gone. The version of you that doubted your calling is fading. In its place is someone steady, someone disciplined, someone aware. You are not chasing your future anymore. You are walking toward it with certainty. And certainty is not loud. It is calm. It is grounded. It is unshakable. Unshakable doesn't mean you never feel pressure. It means pressure no longer controls you. It means you've learned how to stand still when everything around you moves fast. There was a time when urgency ruled your decisions. You felt like you had to act quickly or lose everything. You felt like time was against you. But now you understand something deeper. What is truly yours does not require panic. It requires preparation. You stopped rushing. You stopped forcing conversations. You stopped trying to accelerate outcomes that needed incubation. And in that pause, you gain power. Because patience reveals who is truly disciplined. Chosen ones are not tested in comfort. They are tested in restraint. In the moments where reacting would feel satisfying but remaining composed builds character. In the moments where quitting would feel easy but perseverance builds destiny. You persevered, even when you were tired, even when you were unrecognized, even when you questioned whether your efforts mattered. And they did. Every disciplined choice compounded. Every quiet sacrifice accumulated. Every time you chose integrity over impulse, you invested in a future version of yourself that is now beginning to emerge. You can feel that emergence. It's subtle but undeniable. You think differently now. You calculate long-term consequences. You see through manipulation. You don't get easily flattered. You don't get easily intimidated. That's discernment. Discernment is protection. You no longer let everyone have access to you. You no longer explain your boundaries. You no longer overextend yourself to be accepted. You've realized that access to you is a privilege, not a right. That realization changes your posture. You sit differently, you speak differently, you decide differently. And people notice. Some will respect it. Some will resent it. But either way, you remain unmoved. Because your identity is no longer shaped by external reactions. It's anchored internally, anchored in faith, anchored in purpose, anchored in the quiet conviction that your steps are guided. There were days you thought you were behind. Now you see you were being built. Built in isolation. Built in silence. Built in unseen hours, where no one knew the discipline you were developing. Isolation was not abandonment. It was training. Training your focus. Training your self-control. Training your reliance on your creator rather than on applause. You had to learn to walk without constant validation. You had to learn to trust without constant signs. You had to learn to move without immediate reward. That kind of training creates resilience. And resilience is what sustains elevation. Many people can rise quickly. Few can remain steady when they do, but you are not rising on hype. You are rising on preparation, and preparation creates stability. You don't crave chaos anymore. You crave clarity. You don't crave attention. You crave alignment. You don't crave shortcuts. You crave sustainability. That shift signals that you are ready. Ready for responsibility. Ready for influence. Ready for the weight of what's already written for you. Because everything that comes with impact carries pressure. Everything that comes with visibility carries scrutiny. Everything that comes with leadership carries expectation. And you have been conditioned for it. The misunderstandings toughen your skin. The betrayals sharpen your judgment. The delays strengthened your endurance. Nothing was wasted. Even your mistakes refined you. You learned from them. You didn't deny them. You didn't let them define you. You extracted wisdom and kept moving. That's growth. You no longer fear failure the way you used to. You understand that failure is feedback, redirection, correction, not condemnation. That understanding frees you to take calculated risks without losing peace. Peace is your new baseline. Not excitement, not adrenaline, peace. Because peace indicates alignment with your purpose. When you feel chaotic, you pause. When you feel pressured, you evaluate. When you feel tempted to rush, you wait. That discipline separates you. You're not the same person who started this journey, and you can't return to that mindset even if you tried. Your awareness has expanded too far. Your standards have risen too high. You see consequences clearly now. You see value clearly now. You see your worth clearly now. And when someone sees their worth clearly, they stop negotiating it. You no longer settle for environments that shrink you. You no longer entertain conversations that drain you. You no longer chase connections that don't reciprocate. You conserve. You protect. You build. And building requires focus. Focus requires sacrifice. Sacrifice requires vision. You have vision now. Not vague dreams, clear direction. You know what kind of life you want. You know what kind of character you must maintain. You know what kind of energy you refuse to tolerate. That clarity is dangerous to mediocrity. Because clarity demands action. And you are taking action quietly. One disciplined choice at a time. One boundary at a time. One calculated move at a time. It may not look dramatic to outsiders, but internally it's monumental. You are stepping into the version of yourself that once felt distant. And the distance between who you were and who you are becoming is shrinking rapidly. You're no longer intimidated by the gap between where you are and where you're going. You've realized the gap is not a threat. It's a bridge. And every disciplined day you live is a plank added to that bridge. There was a time when the vision felt overwhelming, too big, too far, too unrealistic, but now it feels different, not because the vision shrank, but because you expanded. Expansion is quiet at first. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in small decisions, waking up earlier, speaking less, observing more, walking away when necessary, choosing long-term gain over short-term pleasure. Those choices compound. And compounding creates momentum. Momentum is subtle. You don't always see it immediately, but you feel it building. You feel resistance decreasing. You feel confidence increasing. You feel distractions losing their grip. That's not coincidence. That's alignment gaining speed. Chosen ones often mistake their preparation season for stagnation. They think nothing is moving because nothing dramatic is happening. But dramatic is not always productive. Slow and steady refinement creates unshakable structure. You are being structured. Your emotions are structured now. Your thinking is structured now. Your priorities are structured now. Structure eliminates chaos. And chaos once surrounded you. Think about how reactive you used to be, how easily you were pulled into arguments, how quickly you felt discouraged, how often you doubted your own potential. Now look at you. You pause before speaking. You evaluate before committing. You detach before overinvesting. That's mastery in progress. And mastery changes how life responds to you. When you stop chasing, opportunities approach differently. When you stop begging, respect increases. When you stop over-explaining, your presence carries weight. You didn't just grow spiritually. You grew strategically. You understand timing now. You understand leverage. You understand silence. Silence is not weakness, it's calculation. You've learned that not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every plan needs to be shared. Not every emotion needs to be expressed publicly. Privacy became protection. And protection preserved your focus. Focus preserved your energy. Energy preserved your momentum. Momentum is carrying you into a new chapter, whether you fully see it yet or not. There's also something else happening within you: detachment from outcomes. Not apathy, not lack of ambition, but healthy detachment. You do your part fully, you give effort completely, and then you release the result. That release is powerful. Because desperation repels, certainty attracts. You are no longer desperate. You're disciplined. You're no longer frantic. You're focused. You're no longer insecure about your pace. You're confident in your process. And confidence in your process removes anxiety about the future. You don't need constant reassurance anymore. You don't need people to agree with your vision. You don't need applause to validate your progress. Because you see the progress internally. Your mindset is sharper. Your faith is stronger. Your boundaries are clearer. Your discipline is consistent. Consistency is what separates temporary motivation from lasting transformation. Anyone can feel inspired for a day. Few can stay committed for months. You stayed committed. Through boredom. Through doubt. Through slow seasons. That kind of consistency guarantees results over time. And even if the external manifestation hasn't fully appeared yet, the internal victory already has. And internal victory always precedes external evidence. You won internally first. You defeated procrastination. You defeated self-sabotage. You defeated the need to prove yourself to people who never intended to understand you. That internal win is irreversible. No one can take it from you. No one can rewind your growth. No one can erase your discipline. And that realization brings a new level of calm. You're not rushing toward the future anymore. You're walking into it. Steady, grounded, certain. You no longer feel like you're trying to escape your old life. You feel like you're outgrowing it naturally. And outgrowing is different from running. Running is fear. Outgrowing is evolution. You are evolving. Your standards evolved. Your circle evolved. Your thinking evolved. And evolution attracts elevation automatically. You don't have to scream about your worth anymore. Your actions speak. Your restraint speaks. Your composure speaks. The version of you that once tolerated chaos now rejects it instinctively. The version of you that once entertained drama now withdraws immediately. The version of you that once feared loss now trusts replacement. Because you understand a deeper principle now. Subtraction is often preparation for multiplication. And you've experienced enough subtraction to know something greater is being prepared. You feel it in the quiet. You feel it in your prayers. You feel it in the way your fear has been replaced with expectation. Not impatient expectation. Calm expectation. The kind that says, I've done my part, now I trust the unfolding. That trust is strength. And strength attracts responsibility. You are not just being elevated for personal gain. You are being elevated for influence, for impact, for leadership. And leadership begins with self-mastery. You are mastering yourself. And once self-mastery is established, external success becomes sustainable. You are no longer hoping it works. You know it did.